Tiffany from the Stoke Fam, and today I'm coming to you with our third video in our homeschool series of how to get started. And the first two videos were about kind of the legal aspects and then diving deep into the curriculums and how to choose the right one for your family and giving you some ideas of styles and resources to start from. And then today we're going to talk about some mindset and additional resources to kind of help you as you're going a little bit further. When it comes to homeschooling, it doesn't have to be that your lesson times or hours that you track days that you track are physically sitting at a table doing schoolwork. Think outside the box. If you are cooking, it can be a math or home ec lesson. If you are baking, it can be science. If you're going hiking or snowboarding, it's PE. If you are building a patio sofa with your kid and having them be a part of that process, or if you're building a bird feeder, that can be math and woodworking. If you can set up a bird feeder outside of your window, grab a copy of a bird guide and identify the visitors, and you're working on science. You can learn about your local community and its social studies, or you can talk about current events and its history. You can get very creative with the hours and days that you're using. And it doesn't have to be physically sitting at a desk every time. So I just encourage you to think outside the box and not get stuck in a pattern of thinking that that's the only way that we learn. In fact, I find that most of the time our kids learn way more when we're actually doing those outside of the box things than when I actually sit them down to do a curriculum. The next thing I wanted to say is be positive and excited if you can about your curriculum with your kids. I can tell you, because I've been there, that every time I sit down with a bad attitude, it's going to flow over to our kids. And I totally do it, totally gonna admit it. But when I do, it is very clear to me after a little bit when everybody's whiny that it was my fault to begin with. So if I sit down and I'm like, oh, today's unit is gonna be so awesome. We are covering XYZ. And I'm excited to actually learn about it with them. Then it almost always goes a million times better because we are all excited to get started versus feeling like it's a drudgery. And I know it's not always easy and it's not always going to be perfect, but just for what it's worth. And then the next thing is be adaptable. Things are going to have changes and tweaks made no matter what you choose. So if you are like, after yesterday's video, if you're like, oh, I know that we are Charlotte Mason style, or I know that we are going to go traditional schooling, there are going to be tweaks that you're going to make. You're going to get that beautiful curriculum that you ordered and you're going to sit down to do the first lesson and your kid's going to hate it. Or you're going to sit down to do a math lesson with the program that you chose because it is supposed to be so good and it's going to cause everybody to be in tears. And that doesn't mean that you can't homeschool. It doesn't mean that your kid isn't going to learn. It means that that might not be the choice for you. And it's okay to go back to the drawing board. You are in control. And that's what I want you to remember. You are in control. And I'm saying this because I have been there and I made the mistake of more than once pushing us to continue in a curriculum or a choice that we made, a workbook or whatever it was, to push through. And it was a huge mistake. It ended up creating more tension and more stress in our school than it would have if I had just said, you know what? It's not working for us. It's not working for you, or it's not working for me, or it's causing us to fight. And ultimately our relationship is worth more than this particular curriculum. And there are so many choices out there that I just encourage you that if you run up against something like that, please just take a step back, quit it, and look for something different. It's okay. There's so many options out there. If you've bought it and you think that it's just maybe you bought it too early, because I've done that. I actually bought a science curriculum a few years ago that I think it was just too early, even though it was supposed to cover their age range. It was a wide range of ages and they were at the bottom of that age group and they just weren't ready for it. And so I put it aside. I didn't get rid of it. But then there's been other things that I bought. I'm like, oh, this is not going to work for us as soon as I open the book. And then I will pop it up on Craigslist or offer it up or wherever. And a lot of the time it sells and sometimes it doesn't. And then I'll donate it or whatever. Or trade with another homeschool parent where you're like, hey, I bought this and it's really not working for us. Did you have something that wasn't working for you? And trade out and see what works for each other. But this is your permission. If it's not working, quit it and try something different, because there's something else out there that will work for your family. Guarantee it. There's so many options. And then most importantly, when it comes to homeschooling, have fun. Like, it actually can be a lot of fun. there's days that are rough. Obviously, I've talked about that already. You know, I'm not gonna skirt over that. There are days where I'm like, this is ridiculous and I hate life, and I'm begging John, texting John saying, when are you coming home? Like, that totally happens. But overall, it allows us a lot of freedom. We typically homeschool just 4 days a week, and so it allows us a lot of freedom to do the things we want to do. It allows us to shift our days. If there's been many times where we've actually homeschooled our gather around curriculum on the go. And so, for instance, we may be going on a hike or going snowboarding, and we might read our lesson on the way up. Our kids might do their work on the way down, minus handwriting or copy work, of course, because that's kind of tough in the car, but they would do the other stuff on the way back. And so we've been able to be really creative and adaptable and still have fun and make things work for our family. So I just really encourage you to think about that in your mindset as you're going into the school year. And remembering that, especially too, if you need to, if everybody wakes up and it's a terrible day and it's just awful, or it's starting out on the wrong foot, it's okay to have a restart after lunch, like to just scrap the morning and restart after lunch, or to even scrap the whole day and say, you know what, today we're going on a hike or a bike ride, we're going outside, or today we are just going to scrap it and we're gonna watch YouTube videos. Look, every homeschool mom has done that at some point in time, and if they tell you they haven't, I'm betting they're lying, because we all have. There's a point where it sometimes has to happen. And that doesn't mean you just let them watch random YouTube videos. I'm saying like an educational YouTube video, but there has been many times where I've been like, hey, guess what? Today it's time for a Brave Wilderness and a Mark Rober. Two great resources when you're needing it. Where we use our PBS, our Oregon Public Broadcasting PBS access, and we'll watch Liberty Kids. Or there's a lot of different ways that we can still have learning going on if it's just a day where we need to scrap it. I'm just saying, like, you remember the days where your teacher used to, like, go grab the TV and drag it into the classroom and everybody was like, woohoo! Guaranteed that teacher was probably exhausted and was like, okay, it's gotta be a movie day. We gotta have a movie day this week. Or maybe they planned them, I don't know, but I just imagine them being like, I can't deal with this classroom and I need a movie day. Because I think we all know how stressful it can get, and it's okay to do that. Obviously, you may not want to do it every single day, but it's okay. It's okay. And then the other things I want to mention today is just kind of a list of resources. So now that I've gone through that and let you know kind of my thought process on thinking outside the box and just keeping things as fun as possible, I have a list of some helpful resources for you. I mentioned in the first video the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, which is the HSLDA, hslda.org, and they have a ton of information about each particular state, what's required, legal aspects of homeschooling, what's current legislation's going on. There's a whole lot of information there. Your individual state homeschool organizations, which if you go to our website, which is thestokefam.com, there is actually a link to a directory with the homeschool association or network in your state. But otherwise, you could just go into Google and type in homeschool association and your state, and you should see something pop up, or homeschool network in your state. The Homeschool Mom has a great article on the process of deschooling, if that was something I mentioned yesterday, and if something you have an interest in, that could be a great option for you to check out. And then I just wanted to mention a couple of books that I find have been really helpful for us, and you probably, I think except for one of them I only had digitally, but you probably see a couple of them behind me here, is The Brave Learner by Julie Bogart, and then The Call of the Wild and Free by Ainsley Armand. I think I always say that wrong. And then Play the Forest School Way, which is great because it has a lot of ideas of how to learn and explore together in the woods, but actually to make it like a learning experience versus just random play. And then there's a few other fun resources that I wanted to mention. One of them is Canopy. Check your public library because they have a lot of resources for homeschoolers typically. Our particular library has access to some study assistance. It has access to a program called Canopy, which is actually free with our library card, and it has educational video content, and it's like PBS style or documentary style, and it's for the most part, or really educational or wholesome videos, and so they're really great for if you're wanting a video to supplement a particular area. Mel Science is a new subscription that we just actually got our first box to, and the kids loved it. Technically it's for ages 10 and up, and the boys did it. Garrett is 8. He did it with me supervising, but I would not trust him to do it alone by any means, which I don't think I would let Tomer do it alone, but just for what it's worth, it says 10 and up. They do have a Milk Kids, I believe, subscription that is geared towards younger kids, but it's not quite the chemistry type experiments. It's a subscription box, and we're getting one every month. The first one, they send you a virtual, what is it, VR headset? It's not really a full-on VR headset. It's like a way that you use your phone for it. I forget what those are called, but anyway, it's like a little adapter for your phone. And then they also sent us like all these tools we'll need, like the beakers and the cups, that kind of stuff that we'll need for the experiments. And then each month they send you 2 or 3 experiments that you can do with those tools that you already have. And the first one was a lot of fun, and we're excited to see what we have next. KiwiCo is another one that our kids do. They actually have received it as a gift subscription for the last couple of years, and they're always stoked when it comes. They're ripping into the box usually before I can even get to it. And it's great because it's a hands-on activity, and they are learning the mechanics of things, and they're being very creative, and I love it. It keeps them occupied. The only downside to both of those is that I have to figure out somewhere to store them, so that's always been the challenge. But I've given them each a shelf or 2 in their closet where they can store all their things once they're done. And that's working for now for a Kiwi Crate. We'll see once they keep getting more and more how that works, but for now it's working. And if they have something particular they want to display, they'll display it for us for a little bit. I think those are kind of the most used resources that we have. Oh, another one I want to mention is Khan Academy. So Khan Academy, Khan Academy, if you haven't heard of it, is a great free resource with math curriculums and a whole bunch more. Math is what a lot of people use, and we actually did use it for a while, but there is a ton of stuff on there that's actually for free. So it's another great one to check out. And I think that's all I have for you today. And we will wrap up this series with our frequently asked questions in the next day or so.